been circling around the same spot for about 30 minutes, maybe 40 it seems like now. I'm pretty sure we're over Pasto, but for some reason we're not landing.
I'm Gary, and this is Coasting with Culture. I like to combine theme park visits and riding roller coasters with various cultural experiences around the world. Last time, I visited Parque del Café, an amusement park in the coffee-growing region of Colombia with some really fun coasters and a look into the nation's coffee production. This time, it's a multi-city journey with some scenic flights and really neat cultural sites, although things don't quite go to plan, leading to some big changes to them.
So I'm back here at El Dorado Airport, this time in Terminal 1, and this is a day where my ambitions might have gotten the better of me. We're gonna find out how it goes. So my original plan was that I was gonna fly to Cali, go to a small park there, get the coaster, head back to the airport, fly to Pasto, go to a small park, get the coaster, fly back to Bogota. The problem I've since run into is that the roller coaster in Cali has closed. So that's not gonna happen. And the other problem is that I don't have a whole lot of time in Pasto. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to wait until I get to Cali, and I'm gonna see if I can go ahead and switch to an earlier flight to try and give myself a little more time in Pasto. I'm not sure if that's gonna work out, but we'll give it a shot and see what happens. Otherwise, I have some free time in Cali to explore.
Today's flights would be with Avianca, one of Colombia's largest airlines. This was my first time flying with them, and given some of the experiences I've had with other international carriers, I was prepared for less legroom, but would come to a pleasant surprise as I took my seat and found a gap between my knees and the seat back.
Hey United, if Avianca can do it, you can too.
The clouds in the sky would make this flight a bit less scenic than the previous days, but that was alright with me as I was just hoping for the flights to go as planned due to my trying to have 3 separate flights for 2 city visits in the same day and schedule changes that led to even more narrow windows of time.
Landed in Cali, and now I'm gonna see if I can go ahead and make that switch, but I've only got about 30 minutes before the next flight takes off, so not sure if it's gonna work out.
Since the coaster I planned to go for here in Cali closed after I booked the flight, and I wasn't able to get the earlier flight to Pasto, I went into the city center of Cali for a couple hours to explore. And I'm glad I did, as there were some really neat things to see. One of the first sites in Cali was Iglesia Ermita, a striking Gothic-style Catholic church that really stood out from its neighboring buildings. I also took some time to stroll along the Cali River, which runs along the north side of the city and offers park spaces and plazas along its banks, as well as multiple photo spots for the bridges, cascading waters, and surrounding cityscape. One of the main features along the river are a variety of different cat statues with different themes painted on them. Further upstream and on the north side of the river is Parque El Gato de Tejada, Near the front of the park is El Gato del Rio, or the River Cat, a bronze statue created by Colombian artist Hernando Tejada. 15 additional cat sculptures known as Las Novias del Gato, or the cat's girlfriends, were added to make this park. For cat lovers, this place can make a perfect stop in Cali. And with that, it was time to head back to the airport for the next flight.
So I may not have gotten the coaster I was originally planning to get here in Cali, but it was really fun to get a chance to just walk through the town a little bit, and definitely a great way to make the most of the situation. At this point now, I'm going to go ahead and make my way to Pasto on another flight with Avianca. The window of time that I have in Pasto is going to be a little bit narrow, so we'll see how this works out. Hopefully it'll go as smoothly as this one did.
While the start of the day went well, things began to change from this point on. At first, things seemed to be on track as the plane pulled in and the previous passengers exited.
Cool, the plane made it. Now to see if we can get there quick enough that I can get this credit real quick.
But this is where the turn came.
So I'm in a little bit of a dilemma here because now this plane is showing that it's going to be late. It's going to be about 12:20, which means we'll probably get into Pasto at about 1:20, 1:30, somewhere in that time frame. So that's going to give me just shy of 3 hours to get to this park, get the coaster, get back to the airport to catch the flight back to Bogota. Ooh, it's going to be close.
We finally got the okay to board what would be a 1-hour flight, or so I thought. With the clouds being a bit more clear here than in Bogota earlier in the morning, it made it easier to enjoy the sights along the way, from the early stages over the plains that Cali's found in, to the more mountainous area where Pasto can be found. And while the mountains were gorgeous to see with the river passing through it, we would be seeing them for a while as we began a cycle of circling around multiple times.
So we've been circling around the same spot for about 30 minutes, maybe 40 it seems like now. I'm pretty sure we're over Pasto, but for some reason we're not landing, and it's getting kind of annoying. Very likely that this coaster is not going to work out today because the amount of time I'm going to have between this flight and the next one, you know, if we ever land, isn't going to be a whole lot. In all likelihood, the only way that this is going to work out is if there's enough of a delay of the next flight that could justify the timing to go to this park, get the coaster, and come back. So I have a feeling that we're just getting a nice scenic detour to get back to Bogota today.
From there we circled around, and around, and around, and around.
If I had a shot for every time I've seen this river so far, I'd be pretty hammered right now. So it's been about 50 minutes since we had started circling. They just made some kind of announcement and mentioned something about Cali. So it sounds like we might be going back. Yeah, that's fun.
My hunch would prove to be correct as we regained altitude and made our way back to Cali. Out of the couple hundred flights I've taken in my lifetime, this was the first I've experienced with going back to the departure point. And being in a country where I know little bits and pieces of the language, figuring out what was going on and where to go from here would be interesting.
So they're unloading the bags and everything off of the plane, which leads me to believe that they're not going to do like a redo or anything like that of this flight. I have no idea why we came back. I couldn't really understand the announcements. Unfortunately, the flight attendants didn't speak English, and my translator wasn't going to work because I didn't have an internet connection. So now I'm going to go inside here, follow everybody else. Hopefully one of the agents there speaks English or something, and hopefully we can get a reroute to Bogota and maybe see about getting something back, since I was trying to purposely go to Pasto and then over to Bogota. But it's going to be interesting. Hopefully the language barrier won't keep everything from being taken care of.
As luck would have it, I did find an agent who spoke English, and I was in for a surprise with my rebooking. But first, here's why the flight was canceled. So Pasto's airport sits on a plateau pretty high above a large drop-off. And with the mountains to either side of it, this can cause a funneling of wind, and the winds can be really dangerous for smaller aircraft like the turboprop that we were on. Because there were particularly strong winds at the time, and with no sign that they would die down enough to open a window for us to land, we were forced back to Cali. Now, since the flight was canceled due to weather, I was used to American domestic carriers not doing diddly squat for passengers other than rebooking them to another flight. However, because of the laws of Colombia and the amount of time this delay would be to get to Pasto, I was offered a complimentary ride to a hotel in the city center, a night at the hotel paid for by the airline, a voucher to help cover dinner, and a ride back to the airport in the morning for the first flight to Pasto.
So overall, I can't say this ended up being as bad as I thought it was going to. My concern was that they were going to essentially tell me I had to go back to Bogota, and that was going to be the end of it, and I was going to be out of luck. But they went ahead and rebooked my flights, essentially going to the same cities, but I'll have more time in Pasto tomorrow. Plus, I got a nice hotel to stay at tonight, and I get a free meal tonight, so even better. The only downside is that these aren't going to smell very good by tomorrow, because I did not bring a change of clothes with me because I wasn't expecting to be away from my Airbnb for the night. But that's all right. It is what it is. Sometimes you just got to go with the flow. And this is definitely one of the best case scenarios to have happen out of something that went wrong.
My meal was courtesy of the hotel's poolside restaurant, and after dinner, it was time for yet another first-time experience.
Guess we'll go for cleaner me. Time to get washing.
Never before had I washed my clothes by hand, but I felt like I should since I had a pretty good sweat from walking around Cali earlier and couldn't change into clean clothes because they were back in Bogota. So I watched a quick YouTube video on ways to do so and took it from there using some of the extra shampoo in the room. Part of the video I watched had an interesting technique to help dry your clothes quicker, which came in really handy.
So I might not have done the best job washing them, but at least I did something, and I can take comfort in knowing that I'm not going to be the worst smelling person in the world.
And with that, it was time to relax and get ready to continue the adventure in the morning. As the sun came up, it was time to head back to the airport for attempt number 2 at getting to Pasto.
It was nice getting the hotel to stay at, the food included, and also to have a chance to wash these last night so that I wouldn't be a horribly smelly person. But personally, I'm ready to get to Pasto and get that coaster.
And while everything seemed to be on the right path, it wasn't long before the delays began, as the plane wasn't even there yet.
This is already starting to feel a lot like yesterday. Hopefully it won't be a repeat.
When the plane arrived, we had a short wait before boarding.
I'm gonna try giving the plane an extra good luck tap today.
Considering the similarities to the previous day, I could use some extra luck. As we got back over the mountains, I anxiously waited to see if we would be landing in Pasto this time. We started to descend and found ourselves near the same river once again. I continued to get nervous that it wouldn't happen. At this point, we went back into circling around mode. But this time, something different would happen. We were descending even more. It appeared that luck was on our side and we would be landing in Pasto. We got closer and closer to the mountains below, making for some spectacular views. But the plane really started rocking because of the wind, so the throttles were powered back up, and up we went again. The winds were too high once more, so this led to another long bout of circling around and around, until the pilot came on and the name Cali came up. That was the announcement that we were heading back. Having already sacrificed one of my days for Bogota to do this, I needed to get back so I could continue on with my trip. So I was rebooked on a direct flight back.
Well, the last 2 days have been chaotic. I didn't document a whole lot about that flight because my phone was starting to have some issues with overheating. There was an app apparently that was on that I wasn't aware of, making it overheat, so that was fun. The good news is that tomorrow is a new day.
Thank you for watching this Coasting with Culture video. If you'd like to see future videos about combining theme park visits and cultural experiences, please consider clicking that subscribe button down below. You'll also find Coasting with Culture on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, plus more content at coastingwithculture.com. Until next time, take care and safe travels.